morning, the most news in the morning, period. Weekdays 6 Eastern.
During the 2004 presidential race, many on the left said the Bush White House was trying to use the politics of fear to get reelected. Now this morning, that same claim is coming from a former Bush insider, America's first Secretary of Homeland Security, former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge.
That's right. He has a new book that's coming out, and in it, Ridge says that he was pressured to raise the nation's terror alert ahead of Election Day. But a former Homeland Security advisor for the Bush administration, Fran Townsend, says that's not what happened. Fran is also a CNN national security contributor, and she joins us this morning from Washington. We're glad to get your perspective this morning. We did, of course, reach out to former Governor Tom Ridge, and he's not doing any media right now. But good to have you with us. Let's just hear, Fran, how this quote went down from his book. He said Ashcroft, I'm assuming, strongly urged an increase in the threat level and was supported by Rumsfeld. There was absolutely no support for that position within our department. He's speaking of Homeland Security here. None. I wondered, is this about security or politics? And Fran, you were in those meetings. What is your recollection of how that whole conversation went down?
Kieran, I actually chaired the meeting and called it. Tom Ridge knew very well that I agreed with him that I didn't believe there was a basis to raise the threat level, but I knew there were others in the Homeland Security Council that did believe that, and we agreed that we would have the conversation. By the way, what Tom Ridge's book doesn't say is the most eloquent case for not raising the threat level was not made by Tom. In fact, it was made by Secretary of State at the time, Colin Powell. And Bob Mueller, at great personal risk, remember his boss, John Ashcroft, was advocating to raise it based on the facts of the intelligence. Bob Mueller himself made an eloquent case not to raise it.
But he's basically saying that he felt politics played into those decisions, and it was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of him deciding to get out of federal government. Do you think that politics came into the equation at all during that time when it came to deciding whether or not to raise the threat level?
Not only do I not think that politics played any part in it at all, it was never discussed. In fact, the only thing that was discussed was earlier that summer there had been a threat against the financial district. There was the bin Laden tape, and then there was another tape, Kieran, by Adam Gaddan, a U.S. citizen who was a member of al-Qaeda, and it was a very threatening tape. And so the discussion really revolved around what the intelligence was. There was no discussion of politics whatsoever.
Hey, Fran, it's John. There was also some controversy following the 2004 Democratic National Convention in Boston when the threat level was raised, and was later found out that a lot of the information, or at least some of the information that played into that decision to raise the threat level, was 3 years old. So there were a lot of people who were already suspicious. I mean, when you take these two things in combination, does it suggest that maybe people were looking at this idea, well, it is the fall of the election campaign. We're in a tight race here with John Kerry. Maybe we could work some things to our advantage.
In fact, not only was there no discussion in those meetings, the discussions on the margins, one of the people who was in that meeting was John McLaughlin, the acting director of CIA, and John Brennan, the current Homeland Security advisor, was then the head of the National Counterterrorism Center. The only discussions I recall were on the margins of that. There was concern that if the intelligence supported raising the threat level, it might actually redound to the detriment of President Bush because people might perceive it being political.